Hi there, and thanks very much for listening to this quick video that I'm doing today on what to do when you get disappointing results. How to kind of get your head back in the game. Now, I'm not going to talk now about writing or essay structure or subject knowledge or judgments or arguments or any of that. I'm going to talk about something much more important, and that's the way that you feel. Now, this is something that you can take with you to any lesson, any topic, any subject that you like, because it's the most important aspect of anything you study, how you feel about it. So let's assume that you've put your heart and soul into a piece of work. You've done what you thought you were meant to do. You've written it to the best of your ability, and it comes back with a disappointing grade. It's like a kind of kick in the stomach. You have that heavy feeling and a sense of almost, I guess, hopelessness that, no matter what you do, it never seems to go right. You never seem to be able to hit the top grades. And it's even worse sometimes when you look around and you notice that other people in the class have done well. And you have a sense of bafflement and, perhaps a sense of feeling a little bit victimized. Why has this not gone right for me? Okay, well, the future for you down this line of thinking is pretty grim, really. There is, the more low you feel, the more disempowered you feel, the more you wind up in a vicious circle of helplessness. And it means that you're less empowered to really study and work and write and perform at your highest level. So we've got to get ourselves out of it. So the first thing we need to do is challenge some of those negative beliefs, because none of them are true. This is something that you've got to bear in mind. The belief that nothing will work and nothing can work. There's plenty of evidence there that that's really not the case. Have a look back through your grades throughout the entire year. Or have a look back through as many of the grades that you've got that you can possibly remember. See where there are even small improvements in what you've done. That shows you that it's possible to make change in your study. It's possible to make change in how you approach things, even if it's in a small way. Every new beginning, every new start in your work, every change for the better happens with these tiny increments. So if you can see even small change in your work, that shows you that it's possible for you to continue making change, for you to continue improving, and for you to continue developing. And the difference between students that don't do particularly well and students that do is really, really simple. In 99.9% of all cases, it's that the students that do well, it's not that they're born as prodigies, it's not that they're born as geniuses and they are simply kind of a league apart from you. Far from it. And most of the time, these are people who aren't necessarily infinitely more intelligent than you or gifted than you. All they have done is understand a formula. They understand a system, much as if one were building a house, fixing a car, or making a meal, cooking and baking a cake. They understand that there are a set of processes that need to be followed, and they follow them to the letter. And if you can do that, if you can work out what it is the people who are succeeding are doing, it stands to reason you can emulate their success. There's no need at school really to try to reinvent the wheel. It is the simplest way in order to succeed is to model success itself. Now that's all fine words, isn't it? Easier said than done. But when you're feeling down in the dumps and really low because you feel like a bit of a failure because your exam paper or your mock exam paper or your essay paper has come back with lots of red ink all over it, you just don't feel like doing anything at all. You want to give up, curl up into a ball and hope the cruel world goes and leaves you alone. This is a common experience. This is something that everybody experiences from time to time in their lives, though most people will deny it. Feelings of, feeling low. And the way to deal with that is to focus now on this one core truth. You are not your exam paper. You are not the result on that paper. The result on that paper is a judgment based on things you have written that have been passed to another person who has judged them against the criteria of what an exam board says, to say whether these are, correct or incorrect ideas. So the idea that this is a real reflection on you as a person, on your abilities, on your self, on your knowledge, your perseverance, and your character, and your worth as a person. Well, it's like trying to measure the outcome of a Tough Mudder run by comparing it to an egg and spoon race, isn't it? It's completely and utterly different things. Sure, we've all got to sit exams in order to get on with life. This is the cruel way of the world. But the outcome of an exam has a very limited bearing on your worth as a person. So you can have your worth back right now. And the outcome of the exam, that's just at the moment unfortunate. But once you detach from the exam, once you say, the grade I got is not me. And you need to do this, by the way, if you're getting A stars as well, because you don't want to getting an ego. That's almost as bad. That can lead you into all sorts of trouble. The grade I got is not me. The grade I got is simply a judgment on what I've written by a teacher based on the grading criteria of an exam board. And that means that we've got to figure out what it is the exam board wants. And it pains me to usher these words. It really, really does. It pains me to utter them. I believe that history isn't about this. I genuinely do. I believe that history is about learning and experimenting and discovering and discussing and becoming deeply connected with the past and becoming deeply connected with the lives that countless people have lived throughout the ages, and looking at what that tells us, what that shows us about humanity itself. It's an enriching and living subject. Figuring out what exam boards want, gah. But unfortunately we've got to do it. We've got to live in the world that we live in, and we've got to be realistic about it. And the good thing is that once we realise that all exams are a set of formulas, and you've got to work out what it is the examiner wants to see, and put aside what it is you think you've been telling the exam board, everything becomes dead easy. So the first thing to do is to go and get your hands on the mark scheme and spend a good hour, if you will, looking at the mark scheme and translating what it is in each different paper you're actually being marked on. Now, the mark scheme will show you assessment objectives, AOs, AO 1, 2, 3, I think it is. I could be wrong, there could be more. Assessment objectives, and that tells you how many marks are allocated per paper, per criteria, and when you can see that, you'll be able to know that the exams are simply a kind of a system, a formula that you need to follow. It's terrible, it's true, and it kind of stamps the creativity out of all known life, but this is the world we live in. So that is the first thing I'd suggest. Now I'm going to do further videos throughout this week on the assessment objectives, so you know what they mean. So if you are in this boat and you're feeling low and you're feeling a bit despondent, firstly, go and get the mark schemes, go and get the assessment objectives for your exam board. And once you've done that, tune in later in the week and we'll look at what those can tell us. Anyway, chin up, eh?